Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 2 of Natalie in Renaissance. In my last episode, I talked about some of the reasons why I built my own platform and why I moved into entrepreneurship. And basically, it came down to the fact that I realized I needed to create my own career structure as an entrepreneur to support my own gifts. And I could do that for myself better than any other employer out there. So let's talk about your gifts. So what is a gift? So a gift is given to someone without payment, and it's a present. And it's also having an ability, a power, a strength, an aptitude, or a strong point for doing something. And I believe that I am a soul, I'm a spirit having a human experience. And I believe that all people have something that they have been given to be in this world, to share with the world, but we have to cultivate that gift ourselves. And sometimes I have found that our gifts, our strong points, they're so natural to us. They're so normal that we, as the person experiencing that gift, we don't see it. And for some reason, either a cultural reason or a learned behavior, we are taught to dwell on our weaknesses and what we do not have, what we're lacking. And that pretty much sums up, I believe, 100% of media, 100% of marketing. It's what you don't have, what you're missing, and, playing on the fear of FOMO and this person has it, but I don't. It's really working in opposition to the gifts that we do have. And so when I was in college, there were some resources that really helped me. It was part of a pedagogy course, and I want to share those with you. And so having resources for helping us to realize what our gifts are can be really useful. And I'm just going to mention two, but there are lots of ways that one can really be illuminated into realizing what gifts they have. So the first one is the Clifton Strengths Test. And then another one that I used that was really helpful for me was the MBTI personality type tests. Some people don't like the idea of these because they don't want to be labeled, which is totally fine. I understand all of us are very multidimensional, but they are tools. And for me, they were really helpful for me personally. And they led me to realize that some of the just personality quirks that I was aware that I had, but I didn't consider them gifts, they illuminated to me in my mind that no, they actually were gifts. And so one that I'll share with you is that I have always, for as long as I can remember, I've kept a diary, I've kept a journal faithfully since I was 5 years old. I have always had a quote book, which means that if someone said something that I really liked, something funny, something informational or something inspirational, I would always grab that quote book and I would write it down. And so in taking the Clifton Strengths Test, it was designed to find these things out, of course, but it revealed to me that I'm a collector, and being a collector is an actual gift. And I kind of laughed. Like at first I saw it and I was like, what do you mean a collector? Like I would consider myself to be a minimalist, like I don't having a lot of clutter, a lot of stuff. So at first I was like, what do you mean? I'm a minimalist. But then as I was reading the description, and they really do a great job of putting it together, and this episode is not sponsored, I'm just giving you my honest thoughts and honest opinions. But as I was reading it, it said you love to collect ideas. You love having this constant stream of information to inspire you. You like to search, to find these hidden gems. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it's so true. And so I do love to be a collector of stories, of experiences. And it sort of explains why in my Google Drive, many folders, I have pages and pages of Google Docs that have research from books that I have loved, quotes, and it just explains a lot of things. And so that was one of my gifts that I had no idea was a gift. So the bottom line is that you have gifts. You can't tell me that you don't have them. Your soul has its own gifts. And so part of this journey is finding out what are your gifts. What are your gifts? And I also want to mention that these gifts, they can be enhanced by education, they can be enhanced by opportunities, they can be enhanced by experiences, but they are not defined by them. And I am a performer. Many of you know that I went to school and got my master's in piano performance, which is, as the degree title says, based in performance. You're constantly sharing, even if you're not quite ready, you're constantly sharing and putting yourself on display. And that degree has taught me a lot of things. But as a performer, I think that there's such a fine line between being and doing, in the sense that, as I am at the piano, part of my purpose and part of my goal and part of the joy of being an artist is you want to put yourself in your work, right? What is the story I want to share here? How do I want to play this piece? But I think the flip side, and something to be very careful of, at least for myself, maybe other performers feel this way too, but your work is not you. And I think that's such, as I said, it's such a fine line, especially in the feedback you receive, because, if you don't do as well as you hope to, right, you can really internalize that, I'm not good enough, and you internalize that sort of outer expression as the value that you inherently have. And this could have something to do with feedback loops from others, especially for coming from a teacher, people using language like, I am so disappointed in you, I expected more, for a person like you, la 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 la. And this language I don't subscribe to now as an artist teacher, because in using that language, you are really emphasizing that internalization, right, of your performance is based on your value. And so I think realizing that I have gifts, I am a soul, I have inherent value no matter how I perform, I think that's such a game changer, and I'll talk a little bit about that in a second. Another thing, not only as a performer, but maybe you didn't go to college, or maybe you had a business idea and you didn't finish it. And I think some people may feel like if they don't have those experiences, or they don't have those degrees, or they don't have that status, then they're less than. And that is absolutely not true. You are a valuable human being. You have a soul that is inherently worthy. It doesn't matter what you do, what you haven't done, you are automatically worthy. But we have been taught to rely on the external world to define us and tell us how special we are and our value. And then we internalize that feedback, and the thoughts that we have about ourselves and our value are based on the feedback loops that we receive from the external world, from people around us, when really we have inherent worth and value that is not related to our doings, our performance, right? Because at the bottom line, we are human beings, not human doings. And any outward expression of our soul, of our gifts, while they are linked, I won't deny that, they don't define the value. And I'm going to say that over and over and over just because I think it needs to be said. And once you start believing this, you start to move differently. You start to think differently. And so that leads me to my next point. Number one, do you know what your gifts are? But number two, do you believe in them? And I think this comes down to, is there room for your gifts? Have you given yourself an opportunity to see them, to witness them? And it is taking a risk in some sense, because it is hard not to care what other people think of you, especially if you have been relying on the external world for validation. But the stronger your beliefs are in yourself, in your soul, in the gifts that you have, the less you need to rely on other people, colleagues, to get that validation. And this is not automatic. It goes against so much of our current social conditioning, against the media. I think of platforms like Facebook and Instagram and of TikTok, and of course there are going to be many more, I think, in my lifetime. But while they're great and beautiful and they can be used for business and connection, we just need to be careful and thoughtful in that we don't give our power of identity away to these platforms. And not only platforms, but just the external world in general. And someone said, focusing on followers and stuff like that, in the end, it's just a vanity metric. It's not really pushing the needle. It could give you more exposure, but, if you're in business, are these people really going to buy something? Or should you work on your email list, which is more hidden, but it pushes the needle forward? So that's just one example of the external world and the validation, and just being more aware of that, I think, helps to put things in perspective. So once you know what your gifts are, you need to commit to believing in them and working with them, because there's nothing like being disconnected from one's gifts. It's really sad when I think about it, because how many people walking around now are underperforming, they're underdeveloped, they're undervalued, not because of what they don't have, because they're just not aware of what they do. And I don't think this was the way we were designed to live. I think we were all designed to walk in our purpose, with our gifts leading us, and sharing that with everyone around us. So we need to make room for our gifts. As a collector, as I now know that I am, I need a constant stream of books and interesting material to search through. It's like a treasure hunt for me. Like, I always have a stack from the library and the local librarians. I'm known as the interlibrary loan queen because I'm there every week. It's just something that I really enjoy, and it supports that gift. Another gift that I have is adaptability. And being an entrepreneur means that I have to constantly revise, tweak things. And someone may say, well, that sounds exhausting. And for me, based on the context of who I am and my gift set, it actually fulfills my need to try different things, to move forward. If I'm in an environment that is 100% consistent, stable, it's the same thing day in and day out, I will go crazy. So in learning more about your gifts, in learning how to make room for them, you then need to support your gifts. So how do your gifts need to be supported? And people want to be helpful. I don't think there's a single person who I know who doesn't want to be of use and of value. But sometimes this does not transfer to that person themselves, especially when they really, really need it. So make sure you're supporting your own gifts, because I have found that it is my responsibility as my own best friend, as my own ally, my own soul, to help myself out. And I think that supporting yourself in your own gifts is, in my opinion, one of the keys of building a happy and fulfilling life. So this support, it could be environmental, it could be a lamp in a certain corner of the room, it could be taking a walk during a lunch break, it could be a break from social media, it could be writing a handwritten letter every week and going to the post office and buying a beautiful stamp and writing out the address with beautiful cursive. All of these things, they're very small, but depending on what your gift set is, it might be just what it needs to feel seen, to feel heard, and be able to show up in the world. And of course, confidence is a muscle to grow, and using your gifts, I don't think it's a 0 to 100 kind of game, but the more we can break it down in small steps and honor those small promises to ourselves, taking small moments for our gift to show up and to be supported, I think that's the difference in taking our power back and really focusing on the inside, focusing on the intrinsic motivation that we have in this world, and relying less on the external world, because I think then we can really contribute the way we were always meant to. So, to recap, get to know your gifts. You have them. Believe that your value is inherent and not based on your performance or outward expressions of your gifts. And then make room for your gifts and do what you can to support them. I hope you found this episode thought-provoking. Let me know some of your thoughts, some of your feedback to the content. Go and find me on Instagram. It's Natalie inRenaissance. That's NATALIE INRENAISSANCE. We'll see you the next episode.